Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Katie Sakura, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar, GFPD Patient Registry for Peroxisomal Disorders. We will be answering questions at the end, but please go ahead and throughout the webinar, you can submit your questions anytime. You can do this in the box located beneath the webinar player window, or I'll be monitoring the chat, so feel free to just drop your questions right into the chat box. Our presenter today is Abby Pelster, who many of you may know from her work with our GFPD Warrior Camp. Abby has been a licensed speech-language pathologist in Nebraska since 2009. Her professional experience includes working with children of all ages in both public schools and pediatric clinics. Abby has also worked as a clinical supervisor and lecturer in the Department of Special Education and Communication Disorders at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She has volunteered with the GFPD since our very first conference in 2011 and became the GFPD Community Engagement Coordinator in 2020. Abby, thank you so much for being here today to talk about this amazing collaboration that has resulted in the GFPD Patient Registry. I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome to everyone. I am really excited to share about this new opportunity with the GFPD community. We are going to start today's webinar with a review of the GFPD mission, as this has really been instrumental in driving the development of the GFPD Patient Registry for Peroxisomal Disorders. So the mission of the GFPD is to improve the lives of individuals with peroxisomal disorders by funding research, championing scientific collaboration, and empowering families and professionals through educational programs and support services. So what exactly is the registry? So the GFPD Patient Registry for Peroxisomal Disorders is an online registry for people with peroxisomal disorders. There are a few different layers to this GFPD registry. So the GFPD is the sponsor of our registry, and it is hosted by the National Organization for Rare Diseases, or NORD, as I will refer to them moving forward. NORD has developed what they are calling their I Am Rare platform. So we are using their platform for our registry, and this is where our questions lie. This is where participants will be answering the surveys and consenting to the study, but it is all through the NORD I Am Rare platform. To give you a little bit of history on the development of the registry, in December of 2015, NORD announced a grant opportunity from the Food and Drug Administration for patient organizations to develop these patient registries. So that grant opportunity was the development of their I Am Rare platform. And in April of 2016, the GFPD was excited to learn that they were one of 20 patient advocacy groups chosen for the NORD registry project and to receive some grant funding to get this off the ground. Between April of 2016 and January of 2019, there was the development of the contract between the patient advocacy groups and NORD. And then in January of 2019, the GFPD began personalizing the registry. So NORD has done a really nice job laying out a lot of different templates, proposed questions, and then each patient advocacy group is able to edit those questions to fit their specific patient population. And so from January 2019, on, that development was beginning. Now, if you remember, in March of 2020, the COVID pandemic began. And so that did impact our progress on the registry, but we were excited to get everything written, the platform developed, the platform through many rounds of testing and edits, and everything to the IRB, or the International Review Board, which approved all of the GFPD documentation in June of 2023, so just about a year ago. In August of 2023, we decided to do kind of a slow launch, kind of a soft launch, and had our first participants register or consent to the registry and begin filling out surveys. And then our public launch was at the GFPD conference just this past May. So why is this registry important? These registries were designed with many, many purposes in mind. They could support the design of clinical trials for treatments. They could describe people who have peroxisomal disorders and how those peroxisomal disorders may change over a person's lifetime. It can help us learn about clinical practice patterns and variations over the course of treatment. It may help develop best practices, management guidelines, and recommendations so clinicians can know how to provide the best care to individuals with peroxisomal disorders. And it may also identify people with peroxisomal disorders who might be willing to take part in other research studies or clinical trials. When we talk about learning the clinical practice patterns over time and over the course of treatment, I'm really grateful to the Chondrosarcoma Foundation because they are allowing us to use some of their brand new data from their registry launch. They recently shared some graphs, some excellent graphics on their treatment patterns from their patient registry. And so their first round of data analysis confirmed that surgery is the first and most utilized treatment in chondrosarcoma patients for both conventional and non-conventional subtypes. And so while this was kind of thought to be the case, they now have the data to support that that surgery is confirmed to be the first treatment received by this patient population. Their next steps are going to be to examine those post-surgical interventions and their outcomes. And we're so grateful that the Chondrosarcoma Foundation has allowed us to use these graphics and information to share with you, what potential future data could look like for individuals with peroxisomal disorders. So when looking at the registry, what types of data are collected? Currently, there are surveys that look at sociodemographic information, medical history and diagnostics, treatment and disease progression, management of care, and quality of life. One thing that is really unique about the I Am Rare platform and this patient registry is that while these are the surveys that are available right now, we are able to develop supplemental surveys in the future, or many of them have already been started. So for example, in some of the template data that NORD provided at the beginning of this process, they had some questions about the female reproduction. But as we were thinking about our population, our patient population, we really wanted to dive a little bit deeper and look at puberty changes and reproduction for both males and females. So at this time, we took out just the female reproduction questions, and then we can develop our own survey questions and really ask specific questions that apply to our patient population. There may also be surveys looking at different areas like school services, different types of therapies, OT, PT, speech, outpatient services. And so the sky is kind of the limit here with regards to question development and collecting that data from the GFPD community. So who should complete the registry? So these are a list of patient diagnosis options that are available for you to select when you begin the registry. As you know, medical terminology is constantly evolving, and worldwide, different terms are used to describe peroxisomal disorders. And so we've listed many options. We also have at the bottom of the list here, peroxisomal disorder unknown type, if you have just been diagnosed with peroxisomal disorder and nothing more specific in your diagnosis than that. There's also an option for other diagnoses. And so if you have gotten a diagnosis that isn't specifically listed here, you can select other, enter your diagnosis, and then that will be reviewed by study staff prior to moving on to other surveys in the registry. And this serves two purposes. One, it keeps our registry peroxisomal disorder specific, but it also saves individuals time and energy completing these registries if their data is not appropriate for this specific registry. And so we have processes in place to help make sure that the people that are doing the registry are the people that should be doing the registry, so we can get the most effective data. Who should complete the registry? The registry is currently available in English only, with plans to translate that in the future. But there are kind of 3 different subtypes of people who can complete the registry. One, if you are an adult with a peroxisomal disorder who's able to complete the registry independently, then you would do that. You do have to be an adult, a legal adult. The second option is if you are a legally authorized representative of an individual with a peroxisomal disorder. So this might be a parent or a legal guardian. The third category is a designated representative. So this again would be potentially a parent or legal guardian, maybe a spouse of someone who had a peroxisomal disorder and that person has died. And so when you sign up for the registry and are adding your participant, there will be options to help kind of navigate you to the right set of questions depending on these 3 subcategories. Registry surveys are going to be updated annually. So anyone that registers and completes surveys within a 12-month time, you will get an update saying, hey, it's time for your annual update of your survey questions. NORD has tried to make this as efficient as possible. So if you are going to log in and update medical diagnosis and diagnostics, that information may not have changed. And so you get to see your previous answers and only make any updates as necessary. You don't have to start from scratch for each survey. However, something like prescription medications may have changed. So you can see what was currently entered and then make changes as necessary. The registry will also notify participants if there's a new survey available. So for example, I'm a speech language pathologist. If we launch one about communication for individuals with peroxisomal disorders, you as a registered individual on the platform would get a notification, hey, there's a new survey to come and fill out. And again, those will be updated on an annual basis. The exception to that is designated representatives. So if you are entering registry information for an individual who has died, those surveys will only be completed once, and you should not get notifications to update, but you will get notifications if there is a new survey launch. For individuals who have passed away, the information is entered on the surveys is the most recent known at their time of death. So this is a little snapshot of our registry progress to date. One lovely thing about the NORD IamRare platform is it just automatically generates a lot of these graphs so we can kind of see where we're standing. So registrants identifies who has just signed up and said, hey, I want an account on here. Once you register, you then have to add a participant. And so that looks a little bit differently, and we're going to walk through that process in a few minutes. But we have 15 participants who have been added. Enrollments right now have been all through someone as a legally authorized representative. So a parent or legal guardian filling out the questions on behalf of an individual with a peroxisomal disorder. And our 93% of our participants have completed at least one survey. And so you'll notice there are kind of like different steps in the process where people have paused, and you can pause and come back to the registry as needed. So if you get started or you complete one survey, but then aren't able to get to the other ones, you can save your progress and return. A little bit now about how the registry is completed. So you or whoever is entering the information, the participant, can self-enter your data. So you can do that electronically. You would create a patient profile on the IamRare NORD platform, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute using an internet browser, whether that be on your computer, your tablet, or your phone. There is a discussion of apps, a phone app being in development, but that is just not an option right now. The GFPD is also really excited to announce that we are the first patient organization who is using the Nord IronWare platform to offer survey completion via interview. So we want to assure that all of our patient voices are represented. So we don't want internet access, technology, or anything else to impact completion of the registry surveys and participation in this process. So there are two different ways that these can be done via interview, either via Zoom with a GFPD registry staff member or via the phone. And this process would include setting up, let's say I'm your staff person that's going to do your interview. We would set up a time that works for both of us. And then we would either log on to Zoom or get on the phone, and I would be entering your answers into the survey. So I would be asking you the questions and then entering that information on your behalf. And again, we just really want to make sure that all patient voices are represented, no matter just if anyone needs support. Other patient advocacy groups will benefit from the groundwork that we have laid for this process. And we have really led the charge on this important work. And I have gotten many messages of thanks for the work that we have done to set this up. So let's talk about, where do you find this registry? I am going to reshare my screen here. And hopefully everyone can see just our GFPD homepage. Katie, is that accurate?
You are good to go.
Okay, perfect. So from our GFPD homepage here, the registry is part of research. So if you hover over research, it's the last option down here. So when you click on the GFPD patient registry, it will take you to our registry microsite, is what we call it. So this is where you can get a lot of information about the registry, where you can register if you are a first-time user or log in if you already have an account. So there's information for researchers and information for patients. Up at the top here, there are some different tags here for information, but probably the one that is most utilized is this FAQ section. A lot of the answers in this FAQ section I've covered already in this presentation, but there's a lot of good information here if you have questions about the registry. In order to register for the first time, you would click on this button, and the first thing it asks you is what type of account you need to create. So are you the participant yourself? Are you the individual, an adult with a peroxisomal disorder, or are you creating more of a caregiver account? So either you're a parent or a legal guardian filling this out on behalf of someone else. Once you select your type, there's just a few steps to go through. You're consenting and you're providing your contact information. Once you've gone through these steps, you will receive a notification email with a link to set up your account. So I have done that. I have set up my account, and I have gone to my email, used that link, set my password. And once I am logged in to the system, this is what it looks like. So I am currently just registered with the platform, and I have not added a participant. And I did register as a caregiver. So the first step that I would do is I would click on this add participant. And then this is where I provide the information on who is being added as a participant. If you have any questions as you're filling this out, you can hover your mouse over the little question mark and it will give you some additional information. So my daughter does not have a peroxisomal disorder, but I am going to use her as an example. She is female, so this is just identifying information. Country of residence, we live in the United States. We are in Nebraska. She was born in the United States, and she was born in Lincoln. And then here's where it asks my relationship to Eden. And so I'm going to select that I am her parent. and submit. So it says, thank you for registering your first participant. If there are more than 2 participants in a family, you would just add another participant and fill out another profile for that individual. The next part is you will be consenting to the process. So this is the consent overview. It goes through the different types. Am I the participant, the legally authorized representative, or the designated representative? It gives me definitions at the top. I read this. Please, please, please reach out to us at any time. If you have questions, we really want to make sure that you understand this before you consent to it. So I've read it. I wish to provide the information. I wish for the GFPD to utilize this information. I've explained to the study participant to the extent they're able to understand. We are not currently asking for any documentation to be submitted, but it is an option on the NORD platform to have information uploaded. So we may be asking for that in the future. And so I'm just going to check the rest of these. And continue. This is the opt-in if you're interested in hearing about any other research opportunities that may apply to you. And so you can select any or none. I'm interested in hearing about other studies from the GFPD, other relevant trials, donating specimens, genetic testing, and then we also have options for support here. I'm interested in learning more about the GFPD, signing up for our emails and newsletters, or support from the GFPD. It just has you review that, and then I'm done. You do have the option to download this as a PDF if you would like to save it for your records. So now I've added my participant, and you can see over on the left-hand side that the little box here says Eden Pelster. If I were to need to add another participant, I could add right here. So then right here on the front, in the middle, it has the surveys. So it does ask for you to kind of go in this order. So before moving on to anything else, we do have to do the Getting Started survey. As I move through this survey, I will select her diagnosis. Has the participant been diagnosed with another one? Prefer not to know, and prefer not to answer and do not know are options. I'm going to click no, and then I'm going to submit. And then right at the bottom right-hand corner is the option to move on to the next survey. The second while my computer is processing that. So then the demographics survey popped right up. Always there are some directions or some more information about this particular survey. And then there are, for different subsections, there may be as well. And so as you go through this survey, let's say I get partway through it and I get interrupted, I don't have time to finish, I can always save my progress, exit out of the survey, and then anytime I log in and make sure that it's selected for Eden, it will show the surveys that I've completed and what I have left to complete right here. I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint now and open this up for any questions.
Thank you so much. And yes, take a sip of water because you have done amazing sharing all of this information with us. And we already have some questions that have been coming in. And one of the first ones is we have about being curious, who has access to the registry information? Is it NORD? Is it the GFPD? Who's accessing this, and how is this information analyzed?
So the GFPD owns the patient registry. So the GFPD has access to the patient registry. NORD has access to de-identified aggregate data. And so NORD is also very helpful in if we run into a problem on the platform, there are people that I contact at NORD. And so the GFPD owns the information, and the GFPD will be responsible for analyzing it. There are many different ways to export the data and analyze the data once we get more participants in there. But if there are researchers that are interested in some of our data, they would need to reach out to this email, patientregistry@thegfpd.org, and we would ask for kind of a proposal of what information are you looking for and why. And then we would work with our registry advisory board on deciding, is this appropriate to share or not. But all information that will be shared will be de-identified.
Thank you. And then also, I know you shared a little bit about the goal for the end of the year. Can you just maybe share that again for anyone who may have joined late? What is that goal number for registrants by, a certain date? And then also, is there a timeline for when to fill out the registry?
So our goal is to have 50 participant registries completed by the end of the year. And so there are different surveys in there. And I think there's about 6 surveys depending on the type of account you're filling out. And so we would like to have 50 participants by the end of the year. This is open for joining at any time. So if people want to get started right now, you could set up your account and get started with that. We would love to have 50. I would be thrilled if we had more. But the more voices that we hear and the more people that complete the registry, that's more data for the organization and that we can use in a way that hopefully helps our GFPD community.
Great answer. Couldn't agree more. We also have a question. I'm going to go ahead and verify part. It's kind of a 2-part question again. So yes, to this person asking, the registry is collected from surveys, but if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on, the questions. Are they multiple choice, or can the participants also write in answers?
Oh, we have it all. And so we have tried to make this as user-friendly as possible. So we have most of the questions are multiple choice or maybe a drop down that you can fill in. Depending on your answer, that question may break out into a different question. So for example, the most comprehensive question, the biggest one, is probably about prescriptions. And so when you're looking at completing the treatment surveys, it would be helpful to have, kind of a prescription list. We have a drop down that includes, I think, 90 some options of prescription. It's a lot. We've also tried to include generic names for both the United States and the UK in there as well. And so if that's not an or if there's a medication that the participant is on that is not on that drop-down list, then there's an other box to click. The other boxes typically then open to maybe more of a narrative where you can type something right in. We have tried to make it as one-click easy as possible. And with prescriptions, we're also only asking for current prescriptions, or if a designated representative is completing the profile, for prescriptions that the participant was on at the time of death. And so we're not asking you to go back through years of medical history, but most of the questions, as much as we can, we've tried to make them multiple choice or drop down. There's also, most questions have an option of prefer not to answer, I don't know, or I don't know, as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to that. I think one of the beautiful parts of this platform too is just the collaboration. And there have been a lot of parents, bereaved, non-bereaved parents, that have really been a part of this and helped develop these questions. So I think being able to have people who have experience in paroxysmal disorders be a part of developing this and reviewing it, and even a part of the soft launch, has really helped make this just as best it can possibly be for our, everybody, for all participants.
Yeah, I believe we did 3 testing rounds and edits to the platform and to the questions before we even submitted information to the FDA. The FDA, I'm sorry, the IRB for approval.
Yeah.
So,
We just had that last ELPFDD meeting, so the FDA is definitely on our brains still. Lots of amazing things happening. So another question that we have is, do you collect medical records directly from, facilities or from families?
not at this time. Although that can be an option for the future where the clinicians themselves, whether it's the doctor, I tend to think of speech pathologists just because that's what I am, could enter some information that may be something that we do in the future, but not at this time. Also, we do have the option for participants to upload medical records directly into the registry platform. We are not asking for any documentation right now, but it may be something worth looking into in the future.
Thank you. And we have someone who's just a little bit worried about the privacy, which is absolutely understandable. We're sharing a lot of private information. So could you share a little bit about how this information is kept secure?
Yes, and there is a lot of detailed information on the FAQ portion of the microsite, but this is as secure as we can possibly make it. Unfortunately, with technology, any use of technology, we cannot guarantee with 100% certainty that nothing could happen, but it meets all federal guidelines and even some additional guidelines since many of these registries are being used worldwide. So your privacy is very, very important to us. It's very important to NORD. It's very important to the FDA and the IRB. So all precautions possible have been taken. There are also some kind of safeguards set up by NORD themselves. If they see someone trying to set up an account with the registry and they think it looks like a bot, or if they think it looks fake, they may go ahead and flag that. And then I have already had to approach them for one account and I'm like, I don't think this is a real person. And we went through and we looked, it was not. And so there are a lot of safeguards in place for us to protect your information as much as possible.
Thank you. And could you share a little bit about the survey length of time? How much time is it going to take?
Mm-hmm. It does depend a little bit on if you have a dozen prescriptions versus 2 prescriptions. That's going to be a little bit different. Overall, I think the surveys from start to finish have taken around 30 to 60 minutes for our patient populations. It does help to have maybe a few things beside you as you get started. So with the diagnosis, we also ask if you know the gene mutation. And so if you have that information handy or a prescription list, those are very helpful to help you be efficient with the survey. But again, as you're getting started, I completed that first survey very quickly. As you're getting started, if at any point you need to stop, gather some information and come back to it, or if you just need to pause for any reason, you can always save your progress and come back.
I think that's so helpful for our families, anybody. We're all so busy nowadays, so that just being able to stop and come back to it and everything be saved is really going to be helpful for so many. Thank you. We also have a question about, do we need to prepare anything to complete the registry?
You don't. Like I said, we're not requiring any information, but again, some of that medical documentation may be helpful. I understand some families just kind of have, here's a list of medications, here's a list of surgeries, here's, that maybe can be quick reference guides if they need to go to the hospital or meeting with a new doctor. So any of that information can help you. It also says at the beginning of each new survey, so the treatment survey says, we're going to be asking about X, Y, and Z. So that kind of gives you a little bit of information to read and say, oh, I need to go grab that, or I need to log in to our medical record account before you get started. But as for sitting down, needing to, spend a lot of time gathering information or studying or researching or anything, you absolutely should not have to do that.
Great, thank you. And then I'm so glad this question's being asked because a lot of people just don't have access. And then sometimes it's just the technology can be intimidating for some people, and it's just not, doesn't come as easily to some as it does others. So can you tell us, how does somebody get started if they want to do the registry via interview?
Your first point of contact is me. And I think a lot of people know how to get a hold of me pretty easily, but the best option would be to send an email quickly through this patient registry at the gfpd.org. And we will get that process started. I can give you a call, I can send you a text, we can go back and forth via email, but it is a new process, and it everybody's access and familiarity with technology is different. I have spent many an hour in the registry. And so if you want to do it via interview, then go ahead and email patient registry at thegfpd.org and we will get that set up. I do want to mention that for the data in the registry to be as valid and reliable as possible, if we start off, via interviews, it would be best to continue that process and not switch back and forth. Well, I'm going to do this one via interview, I'll do this one myself, or one parent or caregiver does this survey and another does a different one. It's easiest to stay consistent with who is entering the data and how that data is being entered. However, life happens and changes can happen. So if there needs to be a change at some point, we can discuss that.
Great. And for anybody who's able to access it in the chat box, I've just put Abby's name. If you're not familiar with her full name, it's in there. I've also put the email that she just talked about, so you can copy and paste that. And I also put the link for the screen for the actual, microsite that she was sharing her screen on, so you can access any of these. I'm just going to give it another minute to make sure that there's no other questions coming in. We are here to answer. So if you have any questions that pop up later that you thinking about this webinar later on and you realize, hey, I forgot to ask this, Abby's here, I'm here. We have, the information right in the chat box. You can reach out through the contact us even at the GFPD if you don't remember any of that, and we will make sure to get you to Abby so that she can answer your questions.
Yes. One thing I do want to mention, when you register with the platform, you are supposed to get an email with a link. Then you click on that link and you finish setting up your account. If you do not get a link, please reach out to this email or get a hold of me. Sometimes the nets that NORD has in place to catch, bot accounts, sometimes it's too good. And so there are some families that have said, I did this and I never got an email. I can quickly get you one, but I just need to know so I can reach out to them. Additionally, that link does not last forever. And so if you get it started and then get pulled away and you have to make dinner and it's 3 days later and you think, oh my goodness, I didn't follow through with that link, it is probably expired by that time. And so again, just get a hold of me and I can get that to you very quickly. If you get caught in the net, I do have to go through NORD. So that's not as quick, but it's a pretty quick process. Also, any information that goes between me and the support team at NORD is also kept confidential. There's a specific email for that. There are specific people that I reach out to. And so all of the privacy is maintained through that process as well.
Thank you so much for being here and just sharing all of this information. I am really, as a parent myself, even, I am so excited about this registry launching. I know it's going to be amazing for everyone, for our entire community, for the professionals. To our audience, I really just want to thank all of you for being here, asking such great questions, for participating today. And then I want to make sure that everyone, again, has that link. It's in the chat box. You can go and visit that microsite, take a look around. There's some great, FAQ there. And again, Abby Pelster is going to be your point of contact if you have any questions at all. And Abby, I think you have some thank yous that you want to share.
This has been a labor of love for a number of years, and so many people and groups have helped with the registry. Melissa and Katie and I have spent many a Zoom calls and meetings working on registry information. Dr. Mosumi Bose, Crystal Olson, also have worked a lot on these questions. We've also received feedback and support from the GFPD Community Advisory Council, some of those more complex medical questions that I'm learning all about. The medical and scientific advisors have been very helpful in sharing resources and clarifying information for me. And then we're very grateful to all of our families who completed some of our testing, provided feedback, and or participated in the soft launch. And so it is a group effort. It takes a village, and we're so thankful for the GFPD community support. And we're excited to move forward and use this data in really, hopefully, meaningful ways for the community.
And we are thankful to you for being here and sharing all of this with us. Again, reach out to Abby if you have any questions. Her email and information is in the chat box, and it's also on the screen. Thank you. We also will have a survey that's going to pop up as soon as you close out, and we hope that you will complete that and share your feedback about this webinar today. And with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for participating.
Thank you all.